पोस्ट कहाँ गया? हाँ कहाँ?
A very good morning to one and all present over here. On behalf of Team RECursion, I warmly welcome all of you for our today's session, Internship and Placement Talks. At RECursion, our mission has always been to build a strong culture of problem solving, collaboration and continuous learning within the student community. And today, we have with us someone whose journey in competitive programming, hackathons and software engineering is nothing less than an inspiration. It is my absolute honor to introduce our speaker for today, Gaurish Baliga. Gaurish is currently a software engineer at Rubrik and has previously worked with Google. In the world of competitive programming, he has achieved remarkable milestones. He is a master in code forces and has a 6-star rating on CodeShare, which reflects his years of consistent problem solving and dedication. He has also been a finalist at the ACM ICPC Asia West Regionals, one of the most prestigious competitive programming contests globally. Apart from competitive programming, Gaurish has also made significant contributions to the tech community. He serves as the director of ICPC and has worked as an educator in TLE, where he helped mentor the students and aspiring competitive programmers. He has also demonstrated his versatility by excelling in hackathons, being a finalist at ETH Global and winning 7 bounties at ETH India 2024. Additionally, he has contributed to cutting-edge innovation as a contributor at XAI. We are extremely grateful that he took his time to join us and share his insightful journey and valuable experiences. Before we begin the session, I would like to invite our speaker Gaurish Baliga onto the stage. Let us welcome him with a big round of applause. As a small token of appreciation for taking the time to share his experiences and journey with us, I would like to invite our seniors to felicitate him and honor him. Without taking much time, I would like to invite Gaurish Baliga sir to come to the stage and share his insightful journey and guide our students.
Yeah, so I hope I'm audible, right? Okay. Okay, so today my goal is to impart as much value as I can in the given amount of time. So this is a story about seeking discomfort and why you should strive to stay in discomfort, and how you can also work hard and achieve anything that you want, regardless of your background, regardless of the social quota that you belong in. So yeah, just as mentioned about before, like these are some of the things that I did do in the past. Currently I'm working as a software engineer at Rubrik. Okay, so I'll start with my story and then I'll try to add resources and all of those things as possible. So looking at all of these things, you might assume that okay, this guy is some prodigy, why is he here? How will we relate, so on and so forth. But it's not actually the case, right? In 11th and 12th, I didn't want to do JEE actually. I didn't even want to do engineering. I wanted to do commerce. And in 11th and 12th, there was this very famous game. I think some of you all have played this also, PUBG Mobile, right? So I wanted to be like Soul Model or Scout, right? All of those guys. And I used to play like 10 to 12 hours a day. I didn't study at all. And one fine day, my mom was like, okay, I used to play a lot, so of course my parents were concerned कि क्या होगा बच्चे का, बेरोजगार तो नहीं निकलेगा. So one fine day, my mom used like a reverse tactic. Okay, I don't know if it was a reverse tactic or it was a brilliant move, but she was like, hey, you want to become a gamer, right? Gamer बनने के लिए 12th की डिग्री तो नहीं लगती. then don't give 12th at all. This is what my mom told me. I think it was like a reverse tactic. Moms are smart. So for some reason I couldn't say yes to that. The person who wanted to pursue gaming for 2 years of their life could not say yes when their parents were like, do whatever you want to do, right? And that is the day that I decided that, hey, I'm not going to touch gaming anymore and I'm going to make effort to change my life. So of course, like I spent a lot of time playing PUBG Mobile, so I really couldn't do well in JEE Mains, got like 40 percentile in math, 89% percentile overall. I think everyone here has done much better than what I did. But I had one realization that I need to change my life over the course of these 4 years. I need to work hard and I'm going to do whatever it takes. I had just one analogy. I don't know how stupid that is. I was like, if I can play PUBG Mobile for 12 hours a day, I can also do programming for 12 hours a day. I have no excuse to not do that. So, yeah, so this is where I started. I started learning C++. How many of you all are in like first year? Are there any first year? Okay, so majority people are in first year. And then there's okay, so I started with learning C++. I've like added resources, everything. So I'll just share the PPT later and then you guys can refer to this. So if you want to learn C++, okay, there are like ton of resources. This is the one that I followed. It's a C++ course on Udemy by Tim Pushalka. It's like 400 rupees or so, not so expensive. There's also like free resources on YouTube. So during the first month or two, I just got familiar with the syntax. I learned C++, I learned what loops are, so on and so forth. And eventually the course was too big, like, right? It contained templates, it contained what HTML is, so on and so forth. And I'm like, okay, I learn all of this, but where do I actually use this? So during this time, one of my seniors introduced me to HackerRank, right? So this is during first year. So interesting story. How many of you all know Utkarsh Gupta? Okay, so Utkarsh Gupta was like AIR1 on Code Forces and then he was really active on YouTube. So he mentioned that when he started out, okay, so I don't come from a good college, so I didn't have much seniors to guide me. So I used online communities and like YouTube for my own guidance. So in one of his videos, Utkarsh Gupta was like, I started with HackerRank, solved 200, 300 problems on HackerRank, then moved to CodeChef and Code Forces. And throughout my competitive programming journey, my goal was I want to meet Utkarsh Gupta's timeline. So it was like if he reached X rank in Y time, I want to try to do the same. And till a lot of time I did, and after that I kind of left competitive programming. But yes, this is where I started from, hackerrank.com. So what is HackerRank, right? HackerRank is a collection of very basic problems. So there's a link that should appear here. It's probably not loading because of internet issues. But basically, yeah. So basically it contains problems and it starts from like very basic problem. It's like you are given an array, print the max element. How will you do this? You will just iterate over the array and print the max element, correct? So it starts from very basic problems like this and then eventually takes you to algorithms like Z algorithm, dynamic programming, greedy, etc. etc. And also unlike CodeChef and Code Forces, यहाँ पे you can get a rank just by practice problems. So if you solve enough practice problems, you will get to like 5-star on HackerRank, which when you start out is a very big deal, okay? So I started out on HackerRank and I was like, I want to get to 5-star on HackerRank anyhow. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what reward was there. I was just like, I want to become good at programming. This seems like a good way to do that. So I started out with this. And then in 3 weeks, a month, I got to like 5-star, 6-star on HackerRank, which is relatively very easy to do. You have to solve like 200 problems or so. But yes, once you do that, you will get to that particular rank. Now, like any other sane person, when I got to 5-star on HackerRank, I was like, I got to 5-star on HackerRank. That means I can get to 5-star on CodeChef as well. And I was so wrong. So after doing like 200, 300 problems on HackerRank, I was comfortable with the basics, like the basic algorithms, prefix sum, binary search, and all of those things, right? And I started giving CodeChef. I didn't know what Code Forces was at this point. How many of you all know what CodeChef is? Okay. So I started giving CodeChef. So that time ratings would start from like 2-star, actually 3-star. If you perform bad, you get to 2-star. So I got to 3-star. Okay. This was a lucky contest, so I gained a lot of rating. And after that, you can see that I was kind of stagnant on 3-star for a lot of time. And I give a contest like every 2 weeks or so. You can consider for like 2-3 months. I was 3-star. And at that point, just like any other college where you don't have such a good coding culture, and then you see people going to hackathons, doing development, I was like, should I quit competitive programming during that time? And I was really considering to quit competitive programming during that time. But one of my friends, a very good friend of mine, told me that, hey, I see that spark in you for competitive programming. You should not leave competitive programming, you should give it a shot. And I was like, okay, I can't improve here, then what should I do? So again, I reached out to people on Discord, right? I didn't have any seniors as such. So I reached out to people on Discord and I'm like, what should I try? So they told me, try out Code Forces. Now so do you guys know what Code Forces is? Majority of y'all? Okay. So Code Forces is like the Irodov, it's not the Irodov, it's like one of the hardest platforms for competitive programming. It has very, very good problems. So I started out during the same time, okay? And because I had already reached like 3-star on Code Chef, that was equivalent to kind of pupil on Code Forces. So I did grind out during that time. But after that, like, okay, this graph is very squashed, but if you look at this, it's like over a period of 1 year. So how did I start practicing and how did I like practice on Code Forces? We'll get to that in a moment. But basically, I struggled a lot when I did Code Forces because Code Forces problems are meant to be hard, right? So I solved 1100 rating problems, 1200 rating problems, 1300 rating problems. I was like, okay, fine, this seems doable. But when I reached 1400, I couldn't solve any of them. And I kind of tried to reason that why is this happening, right? Like I tried till 1300, it seems doable. On 1400, suddenly I can't solve problems. Like I can't even come up with the approach. And that is when I realized that what I did in my 11th, 12th is kind of biting me back, right? I need to get good at mathematics. I need to get good at reasoning. And only then will I be able to improve. So during that time, I read a lot of math books. So as you saw that I had like 40% in math, like zero, like very bad math. So I read combinatorics books, I read number theory books, I read blogs on Code Forces. I basically did whatever it took to improve my math base for competitive programming because I had made a promise to myself that I need to redeem myself on over these 4 years of college life. After these 4 years, the Gaurish in 11th, 12th should be proud of who he is in the future. So I did do math. I did like resources in the end as well. So after that, I did get well. So let's say till here I didn't touch Code Chef. Okay, I got to expert, and during this time I was also a student at TLE Eliminator. So that also kind of helped. So I reached expert, and once I reached expert, I was like, it's time to give Code Chef back. And when I started giving Code Chef again, rating just kept increasing. Why? Because Code Forces is significantly harder than Code Chef. Okay, now the difference is not a lot, but still, if you are good at Code Forces, you will be significantly good at like Lead Code, Code Chef, and all these other platforms. So if you are trying to spend time on one platform and then bet all your chips on that one platform, that is Code Forces. Okay. Now, yeah, this is basically the ultimate practice strategy that most people use. So you have to do nothing, right? Let's say currently you are at rating X. So you just go to that rating. On Code Forces, there is a section known as problem set. You set min and max to that particular rating, and then you solve 50 to 100 problems based on that rating. Why do I say 50 to 100 problems? Because usually everyone has their own sweet spot. Keep this in mind, guys. Code Forces is not about the results, it's about your own journey. It's about discovering yourself, it's about discovering what you are good at, what you are weak at, and improving that. If someone 50 to 100 problems, basically you get comfortable with that particular rating. What do I mean by get comfortable? Once you are given any problem of that particular rating, you are able to solve them 80% of the times within 30 minutes. So this is basically the measure that you want to have in mind, and then just keep solving. Now you will be like, hey Gaurish, this all seems fine, but मुझे तो topics ही नहीं पता, topics के लिए क्या करना चाहिए? So good point. So okay, this is how. So everyone understood like how basically you should approach practicing. Okay. Now for like, again, right, as you can see, this is like, I don't know what rating, it's like 1400 rating maybe, but the first 100 problems or so I've like solved. And then one more thing, right, keep in mind, competitive programming is not a game, it's a sport. Now let's say you take this analogy to going to the gym, okay? Will you get a six-pack, okay, will you get shredded by doing gym for one day? You won't, right? You'll have to do it consistently over the period of 6 months, over the period of 1 year. You'll have to give in sacrifices, right? You'll have to sleep well, you'll have to be disciplined, only then will you see results. So one of the things that matters a lot is consistency. So okay, after today's session, you are like, I'm hyper motivated, I'm going to solve all of code forces. It's great, but keep in mind that it's a long-term game. Nobody on code forces, unless you have like exceptional IQ, has gotten to like candidate master or above in like very few amount of contests, right? It is a long-term game. Treat it like a long-term game and enjoy it, because competitive programming is kind of very, very enjoyable. It's basically like the PUBG Mobile for nerds. Now for topics, there is this website called cses.fi. It contains basically a list of all the standard problems that you need to know for competitive programming. Along with that problem set, you also get a book, okay? It's a free to use book. It's like a 200-300 page book. It's called Competitive Programmer's Handbook. So do download that today, read that in your free time and be obsessed with the sport. Apart from that, there's of course the TLE31 sheet. So if you are like, I don't want to kind of do this mess and figure out what problems I want to solve, you can go to that sheet. There are like 31 problems for each rating. But of course, at the end of those 31 problems, if you are like, I'm not comfortable still on that particular rating, do that, right? So basically this sheet is based on that particular idea that you start with a particular rating and keep solving till the end. So this is basically regarding how you can practice, how you can do that. Yeah, and before that, any questions on how to basically approach code forces, competitive programming? If not, then we'll move on to the next section. Okay, so either everyone understood everything or nobody understood anything. I'm assuming it's the first case. Okay. So all of this is fine, right? But I assume you want to get to this stage as well. Like, okay, this is like an old graph, but I assume everyone here today wants to get to like candidate master or so. And one thing that you need to realize is it needs something. Actually, it needs two things. It needs obsession. You can't get good at anything unless you are obsessed at it. You look at any particular thing and you look at people who are at the top of it. You look at science, you look at Einstein, you look at competitive programming, you look at tourists, you look at anything, right? You look at politics, you look at all these leaders. There's one thing that is common between all of these people. One, they are obsessed with it. They'll do it their entire day. And that is what you need to kind of believe in. So I have this kind of strategy that I use everywhere in my life. Okay, let's say you want to do one particular thing. You need to kind of fake that you are obsessed with it. Okay, let's say you are starting competitive programmer today. Kind of fit it in your head that I am a grandmaster. Okay, just assume, close your eyes and assume you are a grandmaster. Then ask yourself, what would a grandmaster do? Would a grandmaster waste time watching reels? Would a grandmaster be just laying on laying on bed doing nothing? Or would a grandmaster be like hyper obsessed, not go out, solve competitive programming all day? What do you think a grandmaster would do? Probably solve problems all day, be obsessed with algorithms, be obsessed with mathematics. And then you just kind of replicate that. And if you replicate that for long enough, you definitely will get results. And this is something that I'm not only kind of replicated in competitive programming, but as I show you ahead, you can do that for tech, you can do that for any competitions, you can do that for any aspect of your life. All that you need to do is believe that you are good enough, because of course you guys are like very high caliber people, already kind of proved that in JEE, and then of course you're also kind of motivated. One, believe that you can do it. Second, be obsessed. And third, be ready for sacrifice. If you want to get to top 0.1%, top 1%, you have to do things that others are not willing to do. Putting in time on Saturdays, putting in time on Sundays, taking out time solving problems when all of your friends are like going out, having fun. So since I don't come from a relatively good college, all my friends kind of like, all my acquaintances kind of had fun, used to go out on Saturday, Sundays, used to go out to have a drink, used to go out to parties. I made sure I never did that. It was a personal choice, but the sacrifice did pay out and it's all worth it in the end. So yes, if you do want to kind of get good in any place of your life, do follow these steps, you'll kind of make it. So post that, let's go to ICPC. So there's a very interesting story during ICPC. I think I have not shared this anywhere, so I'll just share it. So when I got into first year, right, I was already kind of 3-star as I mentioned, and that made me one of the best programmers in my college, which is very absurd. So I was like, I want to try ICPC. The thing was, there was only one other person who was doing competitive programming in my college, and that guy was like specialist. I was like, we are only 2 people, nobody else is willing to give ICPC, what should we do? So there was some ambiguity in the rules. So we contacted a senior who had already passed out, and we were like, do you want to give ICPC with us? And the first time when I gave ICPC in my first year, it was me, my senior, and then one person who had already passed out. Okay? So during that time, it was a very interesting story. So I just read about minimum spanning trees, okay, that something like this exists. And in ICPC, I saw a problem and instantly I was like, oh, I can solve this with minimum spanning trees. And we didn't know what a template was. You have to carry your own template, all of that we didn't know. So we kind of derived how we can come up with minimum spanning trees on the spot with sets, so on and so forth. And it was very memorable. We got, I think, rank 64 or something during the first year. During my second year, we did prepare a lot. We wanted to give ICPC, but during there were exams or so we couldn't go. So in third year, I was like, I've already gone to regionals once. I want to take it to the next step. I want to go to Asia West finals. So I think 2 or 3 months before ICPC, we were like, guys, we have to log in. And then I kind of did realize that I'll have to put in more effort and then make sure to lead these guys. So my team was like me and then a specialist who's now an expert and then another pupil. So during that time, we kind of analyzed what our team strategy should be. So usually to be a good team in ICPC, you should be able to solve hard problems independently. That is how you'll get a good rank. But that definitely didn't work for us because individually our strength was not so strong, so that was not a good strategy. So we're like, oh, what else can we do? So we hyper focused on making sure that we'll solve one problem at a time, but we'll be bloody damn good at it. Okay? So that is what we practiced for next 2 or 3 months. That I'm sitting here, there are my 2 other teammates, and together we kind of have this cycle of communication and we solve problems together. So okay, prelims happened. During regionals, we did kind of do well. We solved 2 problems which were kind of hard and which got us to Asia's finals. Currently, one of my junior, Rahil, he'll be joining Google. He got 2 experts. So yeah, and this is basically after the contest. We were super happy because we solved 5 problems or so, and you can see that there are 5 balloons indicating that we solved those problems. So we were super happy because we were among the top teams in that particular regional side. So that was the ICPC journey. So I think ICPC is coming up. Already this cycle is gone, but then next time it will come up. So make sure you are making teams. You have already a very good talent, Navedyam, in your college. So make sure you ping him as much as possible, right? So one thing is, you already have kind of the resource to get good at competitive programming. What is it? It's Navedyam. So if you have doubts anytime, feel free to ping him. And if he's not responding, then you can tell me. But I'm sure Navedyam is like one of the sweetest guys, right? He'll definitely help you out and use that as leverage. In life, when you have some sort of unfair advantage, make sure to use that unfair advantage as much as possible. Right now you have a candidate master in your college, make sure to use that resource because others don't. So make sure to use that unfair advantage and get good. Now, ICPC is done. Now let's start with actual internships and placements, right? So how many of you all know how off-campus works? Okay. So basically what happens is, companies, when they want to hire, they have their internship program because they want new grads and they want to identify पहले से ही कि कौन से अच्छे new grads हैं, so they don't go to other companies. Now for this they have two programs for internship. One is on campus, कि college में आएंगे hiring करेंगे. Second is off campus. Now how do you know about off campus? Usually in second year companies have some sort of internship drive. In third year is the regular internship drive. Okay, so Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all these companies do have that internship drive. And how can you know of all of this? First, make a LinkedIn profile today if you don't, right? LinkedIn is the unfair advantage that you can use to know about all of these things and apply. So one, on LinkedIn, whenever these things come up, there's usually a post or so by someone. Otherwise, keep checking the portals. Each company has their careers portal, and usually I think in July to September, October, so if you are going to third year, so in July to September season, do check in all of these portals. You will have these applications open. Now you will be like, hey Gaurish, okay, Google opens their internship portal and then you need to kind of apply. But then there are like thousands and lakhs of people wanting to apply to Google, right? Then what do? Now there's something known as a referral. What is the referral? So someone within the company is kind of vouching for you. Ki, hey, I know this guy seems good, give him an opportunity. So whenever you're applying for kind of internships, you need to make sure that you get a referral. Otherwise, as I just said, there are lakhs of people applying to the Google internship. Your resume will just be lost. Apart from that, I'll go ahead and share the power of LinkedIn. If you kind of maintain an active LinkedIn profile, keep posting about what you have built, right? Like currently you guys are in first year, so of course you can build amazing projects, post about them, do competitive programming, post about them. It builds kind of your profile. And then, okay, you've built all of these skills. Now when the internship season comes, you leverage these skills. Okay, you've already built this wonderful LinkedIn profile where you like every day or every week posted about what you're building, so on and so forth. People are interested in listening to you. Post that when these portals open, you can reach out to people on LinkedIn. So this is something that LinkedIn offers. You can reach out to people that you don't know. Okay, so if you're a connection of them, you can directly reach out, or if you're not a connection, you can consider getting LinkedIn Premium and then reaching out to random people. So that is also a very good superpower. Now, once you, okay, on your profile, it shows that you are an amazing coder. Then, when you reach out to that person, hey, like, I'm this amazing coder, I have these achievements, please refer me. What do you think they'll do? Will they open your resume first or your LinkedIn profile? They'll open your LinkedIn profile first. And when they click on that LinkedIn profile and they see that, hey, this guy has been doing programming consistently for 3 years, they are kind of decent at it, they'll give you that referral. So do make your LinkedIn profiles today if you haven't already, and keep posting on them about what you've built. Now getting to this Google internship, you apply on the portal, you get a referral, post that, okay, they don't have an online assessment. How many of you all know what an online assessment is? Okay, so I'll just tell what an online assessment is. जैसे मैंने बोला कि there are like thousands and lakhs of applicants. Usually what companies do is they give majority people to give a online test. It's just like a code forces contest. You'll have like 2 to 4 problems to solve in 90 minutes. So if you know lead code contest, they're exactly like lead code contest. And post that, based on the rank, they will shortlist the first 1,000 or so for interviews. So Google doesn't have this. Google stopped this long ago because they know that students have amazing minds and then they use AI. So they don't do that, but a lot of companies still do, and I think on campus is also a common phenomenon. Okay, so first round online assessment, Google doesn't have that. Second, shortlisting. So based on your profile, the HR decides should we give them an opportunity or not, and if you are given an opportunity, you give the interviews. So usually, okay, most big tech companies have 2 DSA rounds where the problems are on the easier side. Like, okay, so if you have done competitive programming for all your life, these problems will be a piece of cake. They are not so hard. Okay? But usually they are like medium hard lead code difficulty. You are given around 45 minutes to 1 hour. You are given 1 or 2 problems and you have to solve them with code. Based on that, you are given some sort of grading, and then if you do well in both the interviews, congratulations, you are a Google intern. So that was basically my process. But of course, apart from all of those things, there are more things as well, which I will cover later, right? I have a section on the art of interviewing where I'll show you some tips and tricks which are questionable, but they do work. So this was about the Google internship. Now I'll get to the resume. Okay. So when you think about an interview and when you think about building your resume, what do you think? You should like smash as much things as possible, put in as much skills as possible, so on and so forth, right? Okay. So that's not the case. Think about it, right? Someone is going to take your interview based on this resume. And as humans, okay, understand human psychology a bit. People are not sold on facts. I mean, they are. But an interview is about selling a story. Selling your story. That you are technically profound. So, let's say you make a resume. First, get to know what ATS is. So, if you haven't, after today's session, you can note it down. ATS, okay? You have to make a resume with this kind of format. It's called the 70 plus ATS format. It's available on Overleaf. You can use ChatGPT to make it. Post that. For internship, try to have 2 projects. For full-time, try to have 3 projects. Then, if you have done well in clubs, try to put that as well. Apart from that, do put your experience as well. Now, if you just take this resume and go to an interview, you will get badly roasted. Okay, like roasted in the sense it will go very bad. So here are some things that I'm going to tell you all, which I haven't earlier. For every project, try to have a story. Okay, try to understand that the interviewer is trying to have a conversation with you. And how can you drive conversations? By having a beautiful story behind it. So for every project, right, try to have a story on how that project was, like in the sense that, okay, kind of make it to be true, but basically how you performed in that team, right? What was the idea behind it? Why did you decide to build it in the first place? Why was the need to decide to build it in the first place? Apart from that, ask yourself, in the interview, what is the interviewer kind of judging me upon? Is it like, how did I do well as college club president? No. How did you do well as an engineer? Now, what are the day-to-day responsibilities of an engineer? 1, resolving conflicts. 2, being technically very sound. So with every project, okay, I've not had it in my resume, but try to have a design document. So I'll not get into depths of it, but today look into what design documents are as well, right? High level design, low level design. Try to have that as well. It'll impress your interviewer a lot, okay? So try to have a design document with every project. Try to have a story with each project, with each internship that you can narrate. And also try to have some design decisions that are like, oh wow, it shows you're a good engineer. So it's just not about plainly speaking that, hey, I built this website for my college club, I did this, I did that. It's not about that. It's like, okay, I told you this, right? But think about this, that we wanted to conduct a contest for first years, and then every year just a Google form was circulated. We wanted to make sure that competitive programming reaches to the depths of college people, and we wanted to encourage people who do well. So we built a portal where submissions can be made, and then leaderboard can be shown, and then after the contest, everyone who did well permanently stayed on that leaderboard. This sells much more of a story than I just made a contest website, I used Munchstack, so on and so forth, right? Now, of course, try to have this for your internships, try to have this for your projects. Apart from that, try to have some internships. It's not necessary that it has to be in a good company, but basically, since the advent of AI, companies are looking for more people who already know how to build. So earlier the expectation was you just be a good problem solver and there's that. But now the expectations have changed. The expectations are like You have to be a good problem solver, but apart from that, you should have built something. Why? Because now that you have access to Claude, now that you have access to Gemini, building things is no longer hard. It's not going to take you 2 to 3 months to build a particular website. It's going to take you just a weekend. How many of you all have access to Claude Code? How many of you all know that you have 1 year free Gemini on your college email? So how many of you all have downloaded Anti-Gravity? Okay, so do install that, right? Do install that. Learn the fundamentals. I'm not saying don't learn the fundamentals, but leverage AI as much as possible, because that is what people are going to expect when you guys graduate. Try to build behemoth systems out of AI. Try to build all of these cool tools out of, you don't need to know how AI works internally, so on and so forth. Build workflows when people see, they're like, wow, this is what engineering looks like. So this is more about resume and post that, what you should be building for projects. Now, okay, my projects are kind of modest because when I graduated, like AI wasn't so strong, so I did build, but still, the projects are kind of good. So a lot of us want to earn money, but okay, I'll tell you about my projects. A lot of us want to kind of earn money, but we don't know where we're spending our money. Google Pay and so on and so forth is not a good way to track money. So we built Money Mitra in one of the hackathons. What is Money Mitra? It's, you can go to cashtaka.com. You can just go to WhatsApp, and if you send a voice note, कि आज मैंने भेलपुरी पे 10 रुपए खर्च किए, it's going to log that into a DB. It's going to create a beautiful report for you, and then you can track every month how much you have spent. You can track in which sections are you overspending, and then you can also ask that, hey, based on my last month's spending, where can I decrease my spending because I'm kind of going out of budget. So you can do all of those cool things. This was one of the projects. Second was, okay, how many of you all know SIH? So during one of those years, there was no SIH, there was Kavach, okay? Now, Kavach is a cybersecurity hackathon. It's same as SIH. Government just decided कि SIH नहीं करना है, Kavach करना है. So we picked up this problem statement. Okay, so we wanted to know what we will have an unfair advantage on. As I said, as I keep saying, if you have any unfair advantage, leverage that as much as possible, because it is your right to do that. And if you are not exploiting the advantages you have, someone else will. So we were like, okay, there is one person who is good at algorithms in the team, and then there are people who are extremely good at dev in the team. So we looked at a problem statement. We are like, okay, bank transactions में fraud ढूंढना है. Okay, and this is like 2022, so AI and everything is also not so kind of impressive at that point. Everyone else was doing ML, AI, all of those things didn't really work out. What we did, we applied graph-based algorithms like topological sorting, Maxflow, Targens, Lewins, all of that. And if you see, right, what are bank transactions? It goes from A to B, and then there is a certain amount that is flowing. It forms a humongous graph. So if you can efficiently perform processing on this graph, and you can see patterns which lead to fraud, that is what fraud detection is. It's nothing but clever graph algorithms. So yeah, we won both of these hackathons, but those were my projects. I'm just saying that time, okay, when I was graduating, these projects were kind of impressive. So kind of understand that the expectations of the industry are going high. A Facebook clone is no longer going to make the cut. Make projects that are engineeringly interesting, where you can have conversations with the engineer itself, and the engineer is like, wow, ye to crazy, right? So as I said, design documents, crazy engineering, leverage AI as much as possible. Yeah, so I think I have already covered this, but I'll still say this again. For people who have interviews coming up, right, try to understand that people who are taking your interviews are also humans, okay? I've seen this with my friends a lot. They kind of don't understand what to speak in an interview, okay? You've done coding all your life, but if in those 45 minutes you mess up representing yourself, you're going to lose that opportunity. So when you're interviewing, keep in mind that it's not like an exam that you're giving. If you're like, someone is like, what is React? And you're like, this is React. That's not going to work. Keep in mind that there is a human judging that is this person worthy of coming in a company. So if you've been in a college club and if you've taken college club interviews, kind of ask yourself, what was I looking in that candidate? Was I looking ki hey wo aise dekhe sare answers de, or was it more like I connected with that person, that okay, that person was good, then I connected with that person and the answers that person gave kind of resonated with me. That's exactly what interviews are all about. So do your homework well on the company. Try to understand. So if you know who your interviewers are before scene, right? This is mostly for HR rounds, not for technical rounds, but try to understand what those values are of that particular company. Try to give as much mocks as possible. Okay, so this is probably not relevant for first years, but in general, once you have done well in tech, you've gained a decent base, you should give mocks, you should give more of these talks, right? So you can conduct workshops, so on and so forth, and make your speaking skills better. So we don't say it often, but since coding is becoming more of an abstraction because of AI, things like communication, things like perseverance, things like team building, all of those things are going to matter much more. So once you have like kind of built your base, ki haan tech aata hai, do focus on these things as well, because if there are two profiles, okay, both are good in tech equivalently, but then one is not able to speak out what they feel, one is not able to speak out their emotions, one is not able to work in a team, whereas the other is kind of cranky but then can work efficiently, can speak out efficiently, and has that sweet way of saying things, who do you think is going to get in? The person who has better communication. So do focus on that. Interviews are not about talking to robots, it's about talking to humans. So do read articles about this. There are like tons of articles. Try to understand what human nature is all about, because it's not like a paper. Apart from that, as I already mentioned, do use LinkedIn. LinkedIn can be one of the biggest unfair advantages that you can have, right? I think Nevedyam also does this pretty well. He posts when he built his website for competitive programming, he keeps posting. So what happens? Okay, I'll tell you an interesting story. I'll not take the name of the company, but basically since I made sure, okay, since I think I was in my first year, you can go to my first post. It's some horrible looking website, but I still posted it. The post was not formatted, so on and so forth. But over the course of time, everyone started noticing that this guy has been building in public, this guy has been building consistently, and he seems kind of decent. And one fine day, there was this very good company which rhymes with tomato. The CTO kind of reached out to me that, hey, your profile seems interesting, would you like to give an interview? And I was like, sure. And then I also referred my friends there. So this is the kind of leverage that I'm talking about, right? If you do very well in whatever tech you're doing, but you never really tell people that, hey, I'm good at tech. It's not about boasting. Show off karne ki baat nahi hai. It's about telling people that, hey, I'm good at this. So if you do have any opportunities, you know who's the best guy for that opportunity for your org, right? So basically, this is basically your gateway to telling people that I am good at stuff. So LinkedIn is one of the ways. H.com is another. Twitter is one of the other websites. I didn't really try out Twitter, so if you guys have luck on Twitter, do try that as well. But definitely get LinkedIn, and then during your intern, placement, off-campus season, do get LinkedIn Premium. What advantage does LinkedIn Premium give you? You can directly reach out to recruiters who are not connected to you. So basically, it's like it's giving you a superpower. What superpower? Reaching out to people. So these are basically the kind of cranky hacks that you can use. Interesting thing about rubric. Okay, now if you do extremely well, okay, you're in your first year right now. If you're like today, मैं सब त्याग दे दूंगा, I will do well, right? There will be rewards, and I'll tell you what those rewards are. Okay, I didn't do like extremely well, but okay, there are some orgs that hire very less. They hire like 10 to 20 a year. Okay, Google hires like 500 to 1,000, and these companies compensate extremely well. It's not even that they compensate extremely well. That's one point. They're like US level compensations. But if you look at the engineering excellence that you get, if you look at the prestige, okay, so all of us at one point wanted to get into IIT Bombay, so on and so forth. Consider this as that, right? This is your opportunity to get into whatever org you want to. So there are these orgs like Rubrik, Databricks, Glean, Wisdom AI, and there are all of these quants, okay? Graviton, Jane Street, HRT, IMC, etc., etc. For some of these orgs, you don't need to be like in a super good IIT Bombay, CSE to get there. You just need very good programming skills. So if you do get into one of these orgs, it changes your life forever. So if you have been kind of from a middle class background and wanted to always kind of serve your parents, make them feel proud, this is kind of one of those opportunities. How does your life change? You don't need to think of money ever again. Second, okay, interesting thing. When you do an internship, okay, they give you some money. Let's say they give you 1 lakh. And then you need to figure out where you have to stay, get a PG, so on and so forth. All of these orgs, it's very interesting, okay? They pamper you a lot because once you've proven yourself, you're the king. So, they made us stay 6 months in a hotel, okay? And now also, the interns that are now, they're interning right now, they're staying at this very good 5-star hotel for 6 months. Imagine living in a hotel for 6 months. So yeah, those are one of the crazy things that you get to do. And not to mention, like, imagine you're working and then JE Advanced AR9 is like on your right hand side and then some other crazy quant guy is on your left hand side. So yeah, these are like one of opportunities which do happen, but yeah, it holds the potential of kind of changing your life. That's what you get when you are kind of obsessed. So yeah, interesting story, right? I'll just go back. So as I said, this is where I started development. Once I got as candidate master, I looked up to people like Striver. I hope Striver everyone knows, Priyansh Agarwal. All those people were like candidate master during that time. So I didn't have motivation to grind further, although I should. On the height side, if I look at it, I would probably grind competitive programming more. But this is where I started my development grind. And I did go to some hackathons. Okay, so as I mentioned, we went to Kavach, which is like the sister hackathon of SIH. We won in 2022. We gave Datathon where I built Money Mitra, the money tracking thing. And then there is a separate chain of hackathons called the ETH Global Hackathons. Okay, these are like Web3 hackathons which have like enormous prizes. They're like $200,000 in prizes, so you can win anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000. You can make a lot of money. So these are like the largest Web3 hackathons in the world. So this is like my friends introduced me to this somewhere around after my Google internship. They're like, hey, you made some decent intern money and you don't spend anyways, why don't you come with us to one of these hackathons? So after my Rubrik intern, we did go to ETH Prague. Okay, now you'll be like, Prague jana hai, itna kharcha ho jayega, right? You spend like, let's say, 1 lakh or so. But we won much more than that. So effectively, we went to a hackathon abroad. We spent 1 lakh. We won there. Okay, so we got a lot to learn, and then we also won back money. So we made more money than we actually spent. So it was a free trip. So this is what, like, this is something that we friends look up to. This is like kind of our side quest, that every year we look up to one of these ETH hackathons because they're like enormous prizes, and then we go to that country, and if we do end up winning, we'll get back more than what we've invested. So it's like kind of betting, but you're not losing your house in the process. So we went to ETH Bangalore in 2024 where we won the largest bounties. We participated in ETH Singapore. Then we also went to ETH Prague. I've not added the photo here, I forgot, but that is where we won like the overall best prize and then also some more bounties. So that was also kind of interesting, which kind of also shows that if you really want to do things, you can definitely get them done. And that is, I think, more or less it. Like, too much of yapping. Now more towards y'all. Do you guys have any questions? Anything of that sort?
Yes, I wanted to ask that are there any resources for off-campus now? Because means in a structured way. Because on-campus are very easy for interns, but for off-campus are there any structured resources?
What do you mean by resources?
Like you said, you can go on career portals, but there are multiple ways. It's not necessary one gets selected into Google, Microsoft, because.
Okay, so you want kind of portal where you are basically getting all the updates, right? Okay, so AlgoZenit does this. I'll share the link with one of the organizers or Navidium. They have this WhatsApp channel where whenever an opening comes up, it's posted on that WhatsApp channel. So basically that's the resource that you wanted, right? Now, do you want also preparation resources? Okay, so companies nowadays are asking like 2 to 3 things. Okay, first keep in mind that all companies are not the same. Everyone has different expectations, everyone has different roles. So this is one more thing. Don't make one fit for all resume. Make different resumes for different kind of companies. So one kind of company is like JPMC, Morgan Stanley, Barclays, which are banks. Okay. Then you have these fintech companies. Then you have companies like Cisco, and then you have all these big tech companies. All these have different requirements. What would I change in my resume if I was applying to, let's say, JPMC? I would remove, let's say, one of my merge stack projects, add more of Python, add more of Java projects, kind of show my proficiency in Java and Python. So basically, when you're applying to these companies, ask yourself what is the company looking for, and then curate a resume for that particular thing. Now, what do these companies ask? One, DSA. Second, system design. Okay, this is getting more popular nowadays. They'll ask you to build a system, and then you have to explain your thoughts, that why did you build the same, right? And what was your thought process behind the same. Now, why is this skill needed? Let's say, okay, now you're building a college website, maybe there are 1,000, 2,000 users. But tomorrow, let's say you're working at one of these companies where you're serving millions or billions of users, right? Do you, okay, good question. I'll ask you all this question, okay? Just cutting the flow here. Why do you think DSA is kind of important? Like, why do companies care? Okay, shows the problem solving, but why does it actually matter? Why can't I run an inefficient algorithm and just get it done, right? Mostly in dev, we write inefficient algorithms anyway. So what's the point?
Before putting something to production, the optimization is needed so that it is efficient while the user is using it.
Okay, but what happens when it's not efficient? No, let's say I had an algorithm that did 10 operations, and then I had an algorithm that did 20 operations. It's not a lot of difference, right? So why should I care about?
If we scale it, the whole thing becomes so much of
Yeah,
load on
so
server.
exactly. So I'll tell you the difference. Let's say one algorithm does 10 operations. Let's say one algorithm does 20 operations. Basically, the second algorithm is taking twice as much time to run. Okay. Now it doesn't seem like a lot. Let's say we scale this to a billions of users. Okay. Let's say for every algorithm run, okay, for every 10 seconds, it costs you $1. Okay. For running the first algorithm across 10 million users, it's going to cost you $10 million. Same for doing that for the second algorithm is going to take you $20 million. So one small inefficiency is going to cost the company tens of millions of dollars. That is why problem solving algorithms is still kind of relevant, because it does matter. It does matter in scale. Okay, when you're starting a startup, if you're working on startups, maybe not much, but once you scale, when you're working at these big orgs, when you're working at these quants, all of these small things matter. If you write inefficient code, your PR will be blocked, you will not be allowed to merge. Okay? Now, okay, getting back to your point. One is DSA, second is system design, basically how the architecture should look like. Okay? Third is system coding rounds. Okay, this is kind of new, and I want you all to be aware of this, because this is probably the way to go in the future. What is going to be expected is they'll give you a problem statement. The web crawler banana hai. You can use AI as much as possible. But what they expect is that you handle all the edge cases and you have production level code at the end. And they'll give you, let's say, an hour. In an hour, using AI, you have to build an end-to-end web crawler that works and has handled all the edge cases efficiently. So it doesn't mean AI is a shortcut. AI has just brought the level of abstraction thoda upar. But if you don't have these skills, these problem solving skills to begin with, you can never solve these interviews. So still, if you look at it, right, you'll be like, sabke paas AI. Ask yourself, sabke paas AI hai, but why is not everyone a great engineer? Why does AWS have outages? Why are there so many bugs if there is AI, right? Ask yourself this. So fundamentals, system design, DSA, this round that I mentioned, right? Do prepare for this. And last but not the least, CS fundamentals. So if coding and all of this kind of gets abstracted, what matters? You can build context well. Context fast. What do I mean by building context fast? Okay, let's say your manager is like, I want to build this XYZ project and I want to get this. Usually it would have taken 3 months. They're like, I want to get this in 2 weeks because you have Claude Code. Now, there will be a lot of parts to this project, right? Let's say तुम्हें networking side पे कुछ करना है. Let's say तुम्हें OOP side पे कुछ करना है. So coding wise, maybe if you're not so proficient, it's fine. But on the system design level, if on the CS fundamental level, if you're not strong, you won't be able to get into the project fast. It will take you a lot of time to learn. So this is kind of the advantage that you can build. Spend time learning CS fundamental, spend time learning system design, right? You have kind of 4 years in hand, and 4 years is a lot. Okay, 4 years is a lot. It's like too much time to kind of do all of those things. It's just a field. So yeah, this is more or less it for how you should be preparing for interviews. And of course, just someone ping me. I'll share the Algorithm career WhatsApp group. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. That mostly while doing or learning CP and coding, that gives an extra dopamine because just after learning or seeing a video, I'm solving a question on my own and it gets solved.
Yeah.
But in case of development, what happens? Even while learning, I'm just seeing from the other window and typing in my VS Code. Even while projects, I'm doing it that way. And even if I'm using AI, that gives me more fear that what if the place where I used AI to write the code, that part I'm asked in the interview, and out of the entire project which I did on my own, I'll have a bad luck there. So that dev thing doesn't hit well.
So basically you're saying that building a dev project takes a lot of time and I'm not really interested. The thing is, one thing is, now with AI you don't need a lot of time to build a project, right? You can build it over a weekend. Now you will be like, अगर code सब कुछ AI कर रहा है तो मैं क्या करूँगा? Ideation and system design. Okay, maybe for building a merge stack project, let's say for a Flipkart clone as such, maybe you don't need a lot of system design. But let's say you are building PayPal. Okay, you have to handle millions of transactions. What is the architecture you want to use? What kind of queues you want to use? Do you want to use Redis? Where do you want to host on? All of these decisions matter a lot. Okay, and there are a lot of interesting ideas. So let's say you can pick up very interesting projects. If you look at a file system, okay, let's say you want to build your own pseudo OS. A file system is a tree. You look at it, right? A file directory is a tree. So you can kind of look at this project that if you are given a directory, how do you want to optimize things so that it takes up as less space as possible. You can look up at encryption algorithm. So all of these are like more of your interest. Okay, it's not more of vague things. Now interview में ये चीज पूछ ली और ये मैंने AI से की. See, ये मैंने AI से की is not the wrong thing anymore. So earlier it was considered bad कि हो AI से कैसे कोड कर रहे हो, खुद कोड नहीं करना आता. I'm going to tell you very frankly, when you guys graduate, no one is going to care if you can code by yourself. Coding with AI is going to be the norm. Of course, you need to know how to code to guide AI. Now, interview में ये पूछ लिया तो क्या? That is where your responsibility comes in. Before the interview, try to go through your entire code base and see what the methods do. Okay? even when you're coding, okay, when you're actually giving the prompt and after AI codes it out, go through the entire flow, try to build on, let's say, A4 size paper, what kind of flows are there in place, why those flows exist. You can, so this is where first principle thinking comes in. When AI code something out, ask it, why did you code it this way? Like you can think about it, right? ये मैं ऐसे भी तो code कर सकता था, AI ने वैसे क्यों code किया? Ask all of these questions. This will help you build context over your own project. And second thing is, be thorough with your projects. So during interviews, don't take this lightly. So everyone does CS fundamentals, DSA, oops, all of this, but nobody spends much time on projects, getting into internals of projects, getting into design decisions, preparing these stories that I mentioned. So all of these things also matter a lot, so do prepare them as well. Yeah.
During contests, we reach a certain level, and then after that, the next contest at times it happens like we solve a particular question previously in that much time, but then we took some more time for the rating dips.
Okay.
So what is the way to fix the particular like we take that much time in a particular question?
See, it's fine, right? If let's say for one div to B problem you are taking 10 minutes, and then for another div to B problem, let's say it takes you 20 minutes. It's totally okay because problems are designed to be different. What you should be aiming at is increasing the depth at which you can think. Okay? Because, okay, now I do understand, okay, like when you just start out, it does matter a lot. But eventually, okay, if you keep solving harder problems, if you keep solving where you need to think more, the easier problems will keep getting more easier. So let's say right now for solving div to B, it takes you 15 minutes. If you do solve, like if you keep practicing as I mentioned, let's say div to C takes you 30 minutes. Then eventually div to B will start taking you even lesser time. It will start taking 5 minutes. Why? Because your brain has developed to think about harder problems now. So easier problems it can solve faster. Think about it as going to the gym, right? You don't want to optimize कि मैं 5 किलो वाले dumbbells कितना उठा सकता हूँ. It's more of I want to keep increasing the weights, and eventually you realize कि मैं 5 किलो वाला अपने 100 कर सकता हूँ. That's exactly the same analogy, right? So don't worry about it a lot. I know when you do start out, it's kind of concerning, but yes, on the long run it won't matter. Yes.
Beginner on code courses, how you recommend how to start and how I can approach to problems on code courses, and which language do you prefer?
So you can start out with any language that you want. So if you want a lot of resources, if you want help of Naivedyam, then you should probably use C++. I think that is a good way to start out. Apart from that, resources, the same thing as I mentioned, like if you just kind of start out with, let's say, a C++ course, then go to HackerRank, solve a lot of problems, give courses, annoy him, you'll do well. Else? Yes?
How do you go about learning a new technology? Like you mentioned, participating in Web3 hackathons.
Yes.
And how do you generally approach learning something completely new from scratch?
Yes, so good point. Now this is also one of things that are very important. It's called first principles thinking. Okay? What is first principles thinking? You are given any problem in the world. There are some basic facts that are true, that you know. Okay? Now based on these facts, you keep building until that particular thing makes sense to you. Now this first principles thinking, if you kind of master it in one domain, let's say in math or science or physics, you can translate it anywhere. Okay? If you look at Web3, it's cryptography and then a lot of graphs, all of that, right? It's a linked list, if you know. Even at my work, I did a lot of AWS, I did a lot of Kubernetes, which I had no context over. But what did I know? I knew I had good problem solving skills and I had some analogies that I had built up doing this. So let's say when I wanted to learn AWS, what did I do? I put up Gemini on learning mode. So if you guys don't use AI for learning yet, it's like your own personal assistant. Okay, I think people just use AI, like most people just use AI for answers, but you can use AI for learning the best way, because when you talk to AI kind of knows where you're bad and where you're good at. So it's going to explain you things perfectly. You just need to learn one skill, that is learning from reading. This is a very important skill to have. Okay, as you can see, all these video tutorials are going to be dead kind of in the future. Then you can kind of analyze, views are already going up. But the point is that if you can learn by reading, the number of resources that you have infinitely increases. Because if there is some cutting edge technology that is being launched, no one is making a one-shot video on it. There's a research paper that is being written, and if you have the patience and if you have the ability to understand by reading, then it's going to make much more sense. So if you haven't already, okay, if you guys want to pick up one good skill to have, learn to read. So you can start by reading out any of your favorite books. You can start by reading out Code Forces blogs or any blogs. Let's say you want to learn Web3 के basic research papers पढ़ लो, Gemini से पढ़ लो, right? So once you start by reading, learn by reading, then sky is your limit, because one, AI can teach you from the ground up. ठीक है? तुम्हें जो पता है. So whenever I want to learn something, I'm like, hey, I'm a competitive programmer. I have done all of these, so I know DSA, but I don't know anything about it. So build me the bridge from DSA to this particular thing, and it beautifully does that, right? It's like, think about this as a graph problem. अभी graph में ऐसा हुआ तो तुम क्या करोगे? And then it teaches you to that. So use AI as a teacher also. It is kind of like very good to learn new things extremely fast.
Yes. How did you got into rubrics and what was your interview experience?
Yeah, so rubric every year has their like they have the summer intern drive and winter intern drive. Summer intern they only hire from the top few IITs, and they are like very stringent on that. For the winter intern, it's open for all. It's a 6-month internship. It starts out with an online assessment. So, okay, they're like hard problems, right? They're like Code Forces 2000, 2200, these kind of rating problems. And then, based on the OA, if you get a decent rank, let's say you are in top 50 or so in your batch, I don't know, you'll get the interview. Now, interviews are also very hard Code Forces problems, and they test your thinking ability. So, orgs usually want people who can think very well, so that, as you say, you can learn quickly, you can build quickly, you can reason quickly. So the interviews were also kind of 2000 rated graph problems, TP problems, range query problems. Because I had done competitive programming for so long and so early on in my college life, these interviews were kind of fairly easy. I didn't have to prepare much for the same. And once you get done with the OA, there are like 70,000 people giving the OA. Let's say 400 people get shortlisted for interviews, and then finally you have the top 20 people who performed well. And once that is done, that is the easy part, okay? So, insane story. Getting into rubric is still, okay, it's hard, but it's on the easier side. The next 6 months, that's where God is going to test your patience. So, the reason why they hire so selectively is because the work is kind of on the loaded side. So, okay, I'll tell you about Google. A lot of teams in Google, they're kind of chill. What do I mean by chill? You get paid well, okay? Apart from that, you practically work like 4 to 5 hours a day, okay? And then rest of the time you're enjoying at the cafeteria, you're going to the gym. So life is good. Like, because you did take effort earlier, it's kind of a reward, and then you can explore side projects, build your own startup, etc., etc. It's not true for all the teams, but for a lot of teams it is true. But on the higher side of teams like Google DeepMind, Rubrik, Lean, all of these are very demanding teams. You have to work kind of 10 hours, 12 hours daily, 8 hours daily. Okay, and you can only kind of do that if you actually enjoy engineering. So, okay, you faked all of this, but in your heart, if you still didn't develop that love, that crush for engineering, it's not going to work out, right? So that is why they do kind of do this, and those 6 months is probably where God tested me with fire. I still can't forget those days, but yes. So after this process, there's 6 months, and if you perform well, which is again a different story, then they will be like, hey, you deserve to be in our org, here is the full-time offer. So that is basically the story of me. Anything else?
Yeah.
Huh.
Actually, I am in my 4th sem right now.
Okay.
And, in this sem, I have managed to, my team managed to get into ICPC.
Okay.
So I am pretty confused that should I grind on CP for the next stage of ICPC, or I focus on development or get into systems?
So one thing for sure, if you do want to get a job and not do like masters or so, you will need dev skills for sure. This is what Vivek Gupta kind of used, and this is another thing that I want to tell you all. Don't try to do dev and CP together. Okay? You'll end up being average in both. एक time पे एक ही चीज करो. Use this as your motto in life. Okay? So I think ICPC is every odd sem or even sem. Is it odd sem? Odd sem. So every even sem grind out dev, and every odd sem grind out CP. I'm not saying stop doing contests in that even sem, but your main goal should be to get extremely good at dev. This is like Vivek Gupta's strategy, which I kind of really like, and I did follow for some time. It was just like 2 years and then 2 years, but eventually it's like every other semester. By doing this, you're spending time on only one thing at a time, right? And eventually, when you reach during your, let's say, placement season, you'll realize that you've become much better than what you would have if you did both simultaneously. It's very hard to manage both simultaneously because college hours के बाद तुम्हें ज़्यादा time नहीं मिलता, 3 घंटे 4 घंटे ही मिलते हैं, 3 घंटे मिलते हैं let's say. और वो 3 घंटे में let's say you try to do 1 hour CP and then 2 hours dev, it's not going to compound as such. But अगर तुम वो 3 घंटे continuously over the stretch of 6 महीने करो, it's going to give you much more results than doing that 3-1 over the course of 1 year. So do explore that. I think that will definitely help you.
Yeah. So I'll be giving contests on the game.
Yeah. So now with AI, right? You don't need a lot of time to build. So build your fundamentals. Understand what WebSockets are. Understand what HTTP protocols are. Try to build very cool projects. Because now with AI, sky is your limit. You can build basically any large scale. You can build the next Kubernetes. Okay. So these are very, very good projects. So try to build these projects because this is where the, not going to lie, this is what the expectation is going to be when you kind of graduate. Now, once you've kind of built this project, you'll be like, hey, this is good. You posted on LinkedIn. You're happy with your project. Post that. Go to some hackathons, enjoy hackathons, but on every day you are like, मुझे दो problem CP के करना है, and then I'll give every contest. So, okay, 2 problem, maybe 1 problem, 2 problem, I don't know. But don't die of competitive programming, don't completely stop competitive programming, but your primary goal should be to get good at dev over those, that one section. Yes.
You insist on the idea of learning by reading.
Yes.
But I want to ask, it will be more fruitful to watch tutorials, for any concept. You are currently in the industry, most of the YouTubers, they are currently doing any job. For example, I'm trying to learn any concept, 2-pointer sliding window from your telemeters course level.
Okay.
There you would share your approach, how it actually that thing happens in industry, how it works, rather than reading some books recommended by professors.
So tell me, right? Let's say you're basically saying that you'll have much more context on how it's used in the industry. you can put a prompt in Gemini right now that tell me the real use cases for 2 pointers in the industry. It will give you much more context than any person can. And you need to kind of realize that, like, the people who are like people like me, let's say, or people like anyone who have courses or whatever, we're not kind of the best out there, right? So if you can read by learning, sky's the limit. And why do I emphasize on learning by reading? Okay, because when you read, you are forced to imagine. Okay, if you can't imagine, you won't understand. When you are reading, when you are learning through a video, you are not imagining anything, you are just binging. Okay, it's kind of false productivity in a sense. I'm not saying it doesn't work out, it does work out. But if you do develop the art to do it through reading, your mental ability will grow multiple fold than what would have by just watching videos. And apart from that, it's not that human, like, okay, what you're saying is having a mentor. Having a mentor is different. Okay, like, feel free to ping me anytime, have a chat, whatever. But apart from that, to learn actual tech, I think AI does a much better job than humans at this point of time. Yes.
Wow. What is your post-contest routine on code courses? Do you solve your unsolved problems, or do you read multiple editorials?
Yeah, so I read editorials. So as I said, right, my math was weak. And then how do you actually get good at thinking process? So let's say you reach expert. After expert, it's a different game. It's no longer regarding कि मुझे ये algorithm वो algorithm आना चाहिए. Of course, you need to know DP and all of these things. But it's kind of getting into flow state. The difference between a candidate master and a specialist is when you approach a problem, you'll be like a specialist is probably going to be like, क्या मैं इसमें DP लगा सकता हूँ, क्या मैं इसमें DP लगा सकता हूँ, क्या मैं इसमें DP लगा सकता हूँ, ये DP लगा सकता हूँ, वो DP लगा सकता हूँ. A candidate master, or let's say master or a grandmaster, is going to be like, ये प्रॉब्लम है, ये प्रॉब्लम के ये यूनिवर्सल ट्रूथ्स है, ये ट्रूथ से मुझे ये डिराइव करना है, ये डिराइव करने के लिए ये मैं डायनामिक प्रोग्रामिंग एज अ टूल यूज करूंगा. एंड क्योंकि मुझे ये ट्रूथ्स ऑलरेडी पता है, these are the steps I'm going to use and going to solve this problem. So what was the question again? Like,
what is the post-contest?
Exactly. Yeah, good. So why did I read editorials, right? Because editorials teach you how to think. Okay, editorials are written in a very formal way. They teach you how to prove solutions. Okay, this is also very important. This is going to take you a lot ahead. Okay, because in, let's say, engineering, when you are working, you will be like, ये approach use करेंगे. Your manager will be like, क्यों use करेंगे? You can't say feel आ रही है इसलिए use करेंगे. Okay, you have to be sure and you need to give evidence कि वो क्यों चलेगा approach. So when you are doing competitive programming, do it from the selfish motive of making yourself into a algorithmic monster. What do I mean by that, right? Let's say you come up with an approach. Okay, not during contest, let's say you guys are learning right now, but eventually your end goal should be, let's say I come up with a solution, I should exactly know why it works, and I should exactly know why my other thought does not work. Okay? So this skill is also very important in competitive programming and anywhere in your life. Proving things rationally, okay? It's the basis of first principle thinking. So I read editorials. I didn't absolve much, I did absolve quite a bit. So I usually just used to read editorials and be like, oh, this is what I missed. And then I used to introspect कि contest में मैं ये नहीं सोच पाया. What can I do better so that I think in this particular direction during the contest? And eventually what happened was, because I read a lot of editorials, I kind of started thinking like editorials. Okay, I started thinking that, let's say X is the solution, this means X minus 1 is also the solution, X plus 1 is not the solution, this means the solution is monotonic, hence we can apply binary search on the solution, and then you come up with the states or whatever. So do read editorials. I would suggest that. Okay, फिर editorials अगर तुमने honestly पढ़ा, फिर समझ नहीं आया, feel free to tune into post contest discussions. I think that is also very good. But very, very honestly, do the editorial reading first, then go to the post contest.
Yeah, if I am giving contest and during that, like if 5 questions are there and I'm able to do like 2 questions, 3 questions, then what about like what should be my approach to solve the left 2 questions? Like suppose if I don't know anything about that topic, maybe.
Yeah, so try to solve the n+1 problem. I don't think we've ever like tried to solve like n+3 or n+4 problem, because like that's too much advanced. Like you can definitely try. It's good to be curious, but usually what to do is, if you want to get better, okay, at competitive programming, if you can solve 3 problems, you want to know how to solve the 4th problem, so your rating can increase. So give contest, and over contest look at what the 4th problem is. Now if it's of a new topic, it's already showing you should be learning that new topic already. And if it's not of a new topic, it means that you are weak in that particular topic, so you should be practicing more of that. So you can use the contest that you give as a source of truth to be knowing what to learn. Either you need to learn more in depth about that topic, or you need to learn that topic in general and just practice more. So this is how you can use n+1. n+2 I don't think usually people do. It's usually recommended कि तुमने 4 किए तो 5वां वाला try कर लो. If you have done that, then you can also like after a point try it, okay? Because after a point it doesn't really matter, like the reasoning and all stays the same, it just becomes more complex. But early on I wouldn't really recommend that you spend time, because there's a lot of advanced things, right? Let's say a problem involves FFT में कुछ और करना है ये वो, it's too advanced, right? FFT itself uses divide and conquer and all of those things. So first try to build when you want to build the building, right? Try to get the base first and then eventually build the floors upon it.
So like for that time, if it's a new topic, so I should live that and go with my flow.
No, so for the n+1, like let's say you solve 3 and for the 4th problem you like require segment trees. So you already know that you should be learning segment trees. If you're learning a new topic right now, you can keep that aside, but keep it in mind that the next topic you should be learning is probably segment trees, because it's already come up in a contest, so it's probably high time that you learn that particular topic. Okay. Any more questions? Huh.
Before this session, we had that the difference between an expert and a candidate master is pretty big.
Yes.
Even for you, it took 6 to 7 months to reach that level.
Yes.
So, could you please guide, okay, as an entry-level expert, I find it very difficult to use topics and increase my rating and raise my level.
So I think there is someone who can give a better answer for this. Like to call Naivedya. Come. We'll discuss, okay? We'll see what the difference is between an expert and let's say CM. I think one of your seniors has done it recently, so should also be getting an opportunity. Tell us, Naivedya, what is the difference between an expert and CM?
Basically, like personally, when I was an expert, I really wanted to like solve the problem, and my approach was usually like I would try to imagine the problem in my head. Like I'd create a video of the problem in my head, and then I'd sort of move things around and try to get to a solution. And sometimes I proved it, and when it's very, very obvious, then I would not prove it. When I became a candidate master, the thing is, I think the difference between an expert and the candidate master, especially a lower expert like a 1600 expert, majorly it's your ability to solve a diff 2D, because if you can solve till diff 2C really fast, I would say in 40 minutes or so, you would be a 1600. But like the only difference is that D barrier. So to solve a diff 2D, my approach is usually very different from solving the first 3. For diff 2D, I don't really want to solve the problem. I would just start making random observations on it. I'd write the observations on paper, and I'll somehow try to connect those together, like how observation B follows from A, how C follows from B. You can think of it like a graph, like your observations are the nodes and the connections are the edges, and then I try to generalize it, and then I try to like come to it. So this is a very long way to do a diff 2D. Usually using this, you can do a diff 2D in probably 40-50 minutes. So if you can do diff 2D in 40-50 minutes while doing till diff 2C in like 30-40 minutes, you would hit like 1850, or if you are lucky then even candid master. If you want to hit master, I think like you need to do D much faster. Like, but I know I know a lot of masters who just do div 2D. They do till A to D in like 1 hour. So I believe they have a different approach to D. So I think he can guide you better because he is a master.
So this is basically the difference you can notice, right? Already the first thing that they mentioned was not कि ये कैसे लगाएंगे वो कैसे लगाएंगे. It's the thought process that needs to change. So I don't know like what approach you've been using to solve problems, but the thing that needs to basically change is the way you look at problems. Okay? So first of all, you need to look at problems in terms of observations. So there is this concept of convergence and divergence. You diverge into multiple observations and ideas and then converge them into one specific solution. So this is how probably you should be building your thought process in general rather than random cycles, which you might have also noticed that happen sometimes. Apart from this, in terms of topics, you already kind of know what you should be solving, but I'll still tell you. Dynamic programming, segment trees, number theory, combinatorics, graphs, trees, and then combination of everything, okay? DP on graphs, DP on trees, DP with number theory, graphs with number theory, etc., etc. So if you look at CS, your goal should be to AK all the sections of graph, DP, trees, learn all of these advanced concepts, and also to become more mathematically mature in nature. So what do I mean by more mathematically mature in nature? The way you approach problems is much more formalized. It's not, it's just like thinking like an editorial, like you mentioned, right? You have observations, okay, you can make a graph one, and then you kind of bring those observations together, you write it down, you bring those observations together, you find some kind of deduction, and then you prove that deduction and solve. So this is kind of the hard way to do it, but if you do this right, then since your problem solving skills mature a lot, like getting to CM and getting post that is not going to kind of hurt you so much, because this is basically the base. Like getting to expert to CM is basically the base to get to CM to any rank above. Then it doesn't become a matter of how you change your thinking process. I think that's majorly between expert to CM. Once you have changed your thinking process, post let's say 1800, 1900, it's more or less about how much you practice, how much, basically just like gym, right? Once you have a six-pack, it's no longer about how do I get a six-pack. It's more about how do I maintain, how do I get better, how do I get into depths of things, do my research, so on and so forth. So that is more or less the difference between let's say 1600 and let's say 1900. Okay. Yes.
If we want to approach quant, like if you want to learn more about it, what can be the resources? Like recently the ICPC Code Fest happened.
Yes.
So it didn't contain much higher data structures or anything till question D, I guess. So,
okay.
So how can we learn that? Means not necessarily the algorithmic thing. What are the resources?
So if you look at ICPC, right, which is kind of a recruiting pipeline to help quants get to talent. The idea is never to be like algorithmically super smart. Quants want people again who have great thinking ability. So if you look at the problems, they were designed in such a way that it tests your thinking ability. Now, if you want to get to quant, I think on our LinkedIn page there are already a lot of resources that we have put up. But basically, if you're targeting quants, probably the best way to a non, let's say, IIT, Madras, Delhi, Bombay college is via CodeFest and QuantFest. You can look at what quant interviews look like. Usually there is a lot of math. They ask probability, they ask number theory, okay? And like the probability is in depth. So apart from CodeFest, which is probably targeted towards the SWE roles. So quants also have like two roles, SWE and then quant researcher, okay? So CodeFest is kind of targeted towards SWE roles, and QuantFest that we have later this year is targeted towards quant researcher. So you can look at the structure of the exams, you can look at the structure of the interviews. There is this book called the Quant Interviews Green Book. Okay, so you can look into them. What do quant people ask usually in interviews? They are puzzles, because they want to know how you think, they want to know how you are mathematically sound. Okay, so I'll ask you this particular question. It's like an open question. If you guys want to try it out, right? And I'll be great. I'll be happy if someone is able to solve it. Let's say Alice and Bob are playing a game, and then you have this huge circle. Okay, it's like the size doesn't matter. Let's say the radius is r. Okay, then you also have 5 rupee coins. Let's say their diameter is d. Alice starts by placing a coin on the circle. Then Bob has to place a coin on the circle, and then they don't overlap. Okay, they can't. एक coin के ऊपर दूसरा coin नहीं रख सकते. The last person who is not able to make a move loses. So, what should be the best strategy for, given, let's say, a radius of the circle and radius of the coin, how do you determine who is going to win? This is the problem. So think about it. Okay, we can discuss this offline, but this is basically the kind of problem that quant people ask, because they want to know how you think out of the box. They don't kind of care. Of course, for SWE they do care. Your C++, low level coding. So if you are targeting like SWE in quant, then look into C++, build good projects, know what order books are, see how quants work, learn about it. So your project should also be inclined in that way, right? Build a compiler, build an order book. But if you want to do quant research, then you should be given, let's say, world quant, alphas, learn what alphas are. Then give the world quant. There's some world quant program which gives you a consultant internship, so you can consider that. So you kind of have to build your profile that way if you want to get into quant. So yeah, do well in CodeFest, QuantFest, and on the side, do have a profile that quant people do want to look into. So SWE role, then SWE type projects, quant role, then quant type projects. You build your own strategies, made some money. I think this is something that small quants value a lot. Apart from this world quant consultant role, then more of achievements on the quant side, I think that will definitely help. Does anyone have the answer to the problem? So I'll just share. Okay, probably. Is there any more questions? So if not, then we can end the session. Thank you so much. I'll just share the solution. Wait, I'll just share the solution. So there's nothing to do with the radius of the coin and circle in general. Those are useless. Alice starts by placing coin in the center. Then wherever Bob places the coin, Alice always places the coin as a mirror image. So finally Bob will always lose. That's basically the crux of the problem. So thank you so much. I hope I was able to kind of give some value in this time. And one last thing, always seek discomfort, and I hope you guys do well in your life.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your insightful journey and guiding us. Your journey was truly inspiring, and we got to learn a lot from you. I hope everyone have enjoyed the session and got to learn a lot. And this is the end. Thank you all.